Hello and welcome to the Pixelated Realms Gamescast, your guide through the digital landscape, untangling the mysteries of your favorite titles and discussing the latest and greatest in video game fun. I'm your host, Alex Salerno, and alongside me is my good friend, Dustin, back from China. What's up?
What up? I didn't defect, everyone. I'm still here. Yeah,
He's
that's
like,
one of my buddy texted me like when I got back. He's like, "Are you gonna defect soon?" I'm like, "What?" Like,
you had to go
oh,
check in with your handler.
I like America, pro America, you know. So
Yeah.
it's kind of funny though, because we spent we're there for like 3 weeks. So
Mhm.
yeah, it was a fun
all,
trip
of,
though.
all of a sudden, really into communism, though, but
I know it's like, maybe not the worst idea.
I mean, not like we're doing great over here at the moment. But anyways, today we're going to be talking about live service games. Is it a sustainable model? Do they suck? Are they dead? We don't know. We'll talk about it a little bit. We're going to go over what we've been playing. We're going to ask or answer questions from the community like we always do. But first, some housekeeping. You can go over to pixelatedrealms.org/Patreon and we would love if you could subscribe and go to our Patreon page, because that is where we post announcements. We do not ask that you, sign up for any of the tiers. We have a free level subscription, which gives you access to all the information that we post. So that's the best place that you can go and learn about all of our latest news and announcements, including if we skip episodes and, whatever calendar updates and stuff like that. So please, 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 if you're interested, go to pixelatedrealms.org/Patreon. And
I should sign up for that.
You're not even signed up? You son of a bitch. If I can't even get you, we're doomed. We're doomed. All right. Well, let's go and dive in to what have you been playing? Dustin, have you been playing anything? You've been gone for like a month.
Played some Delta Force with you when I got back. That was like really the first gaming I did.
Mm-hmm.
I subscribed to a VPN in China just so that I could keep up with my Pokemon TCG Pocket.
Nice.
And I was like, look, there's no fucking way I can be gone for 3 weeks. That's like
how many
plus
cards
I'm a
is
premium sub. So that's 3 packs a day for 21 days, or so whatever that math that ends up being. And I'm just like, no,
63?
I can't miss out on 63 packs. Like, no way. It's so far behind.
Yeah, was that 5 cards per pack? Yeah, that's hundreds of cards.
Yeah, and I'm like on a mission to fill up my Pokédex, which I have done. I have all 226 and 68 for both sets, and I have all the 1-star rare alt arts, other than Superior from Mythical Island. It's the only one I'm missing. But I've been kind of
You're
crushing
missing only
it.
one card out of the entire game?
No. The 2-star rares, I still am missing a bunch. But all of the 1 through 4 star or 1 through 4 diamond, I have every one. And then I have every 1-star parallel art card. So all I'm missing is probably like half of the 2-star alt cards. I have all of the 3 stars except for the Immersion Celebi. I don't have the Immersion Celebi. And then I haven't got one of the gold cards of
Really?
Pikachu, Charizard, Mewtwo, or Celebi. Yeah, not one time. I haven't got any of those. But I don't really give a fuck about those anyways. They look ugly. I have like the real Mewtwo, the real Mew here at my house. That I pulled in the pack.
I'll trade you my. I have the gold Mewtwo.
We can't. So okay.
Yeah, when did the trades happen?
Let's just talk about Pokemon here. The trading system fucking sucks. So they introduced it in it's going to go live with the next expansion that goes live on the 29th, so 2 days from now. You can only trade 1 through 4 diamond and 1-star alt. So you can't trade 2-star, 3-star, or 4-star alt rares.
So like the really hard to get ones are
they're really hard to get ones you can't fucking trade. They're introducing a new currency that you have to use to trade. We don't know what that's going to cost, or if it's going to cost money, or how you accrue it. You can only trade cards of the same rarity. So I can't give you like a EX card for like a 1-star, like fucking Jigglypuff or whatever, which that's fine.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you don't have like a feeder account that's just like trading you crap cards for better, like really amazing cards.
I do think like 4 diamond, which is like EXs, you should be able to trade those for 1-stars, which is like the base alt art parallels. I think
Mm-hmm.
that those are equivalent or should be equivalents, but they're not. So yeah, like it kind of sucks because for one, I don't really need any of the cards. I literally don't need any of the cards that are going to be available via trade. For me, like I don't care about the 3 stars because again, there's so few. It's just the Celebi, Charizard, Pikachu, and Mewtwo immersions are 3 stars. But the 2-star rares, like those are the ones you want to be trading because I have like multiple Wigglytuff with the rainbow borders. I have 2 Brock trainer cards of the alt ones, and it'd be nice to like go to Jimmy who has 2 Sabrinas and be
Mm-hmm.
like, let me get one of your Sabrinas because I run double Sabrinas on my deck. Almost every deck I build, I run 2 Sabrinas in it because it's just so powerful. So the fact I can't give him a Brock for a Sabrina because they don't want you to trade 2 stars fucking sucks. So yeah,
Yeah, I
at
wonder
least
if they'll like loosen that up as the game goes. But
I hope so. I hope so because right now, like, a lot of people have been bitching about it too. Like people are not
mm-hmm.
happy with the trading mechanic. Like even like the media articles I've seen, like I read like a gamer.com one that was like the trading is so restrictive that it's not even worth doing.
Mm-hmm.
Which that's a little harsh, but it definitely isn't great. I
Right,
think it's
people
more,
only really want to trade for the good stuff, anyways. You're not really doing a lot of trades for the like crap cards.
yeah. I think it's right now. It's better for like casuals who you know aren't playing that much to be like, oh yeah, I still need a couple like these EX cards. But like for someone like me who has spent money on being premium, I've bought some packs with Pokegold. Very disappointed in myself for doing that, but I did. um, I'm just like, yeah, that this adds 0 value to me. But we have the new expansion launching in 2 days. It's going to introduce 2 new packs. I'm not sure how many cards per pack it's going to be. So, I've got like about 70 hourglasses saved up. Not planning on buying any Pokegold to open packs. So it'll be a little bit of a challenge. I'm hoping like, with it being 2 different new packs that they throw some like quite a bit of hourglasses at us right off the bat. But we'll see. It's fun,
Have you? Yeah, have you heard about the whole like real money trading thing?
Mm-mm.
So I guess I don't. I mean, I don't know where this came from, but I guess the Pokemon company released a thing that said, "Hey, like if you trade for real money, we're gonna ban you because that it's not it's not like how they want the game played." But I guess people are like saying like, "Oh, I'll trade you, but you have to pay me real money to get the card." So it's like a sweeten the deal kind of a thing. And so people are posting online and are like, "Hey, I'll trade somebody this for a card of like this plus $10 or something."
That might be why they're like hesitant to do
Mm-hmm.
2-star rares because those are the most difficult cards to get, right? Like I got like fucking 5 Charizard immersion cards for whatever reason. I get that shit like crazy, but the 2-star rare cards seem to be the most difficult. And honestly, like I think they're the best looking by far,
Mm-hmm.
as well. So I could see people being willing to pay to fill out their Pokédexes for the 2-star rares because those are going to be the most difficult cards to fill out your Pokédex. And I want those cards because they look the best. I just want them in my deck, right? So when I'm playing, I'm always jealous if I'm like playing somebody and like they throw down like a, whatever deck I'm playing, like a Venusaur 2-star. And I'm like, fuck, that card looks so dope. So yeah, that might be the biggest reason why they're hesitant to do that right now is because there's
Yeah.
like we don't want people trying to get real money for
Yeah, like take advantage of people who are just trying to have fun.
but frankly people are spending real money on these cards, so I know it's a free to play game and you can get these cards for free, but I'm spending money on Pokegold, I'm spending the money on premium, so if I want to sell my cards as if they're like for physical cards, I kind of feel that I have the right to do that because I'm paying for this to some extent. Pokemon can't go to me and
Yeah.
tell me I can't sell my physical cards.
Yeah. It kind of gets into that discussion. I'm just kind of playing the devil's advocate here, but of like CS:GO selling skins, and people are saying like, well, it's kind of like gambling. You're gambling for these cards, and then you're trying to sell them for real money, which is a way to take. Because the problem with gambling in games is it's fine in the game as long as you can't take the money back out. That's what makes it like gambling versus just playing a game about gambling, right?
Yeah.
And so if you can take money back out somehow, even if it's not through official channels, that's kind of, gambling in that way.
Sort of, though, because if you look at like FIFA, for instance, right? Like EA's got a lot of shit because you can have Ultimate Team, and Ultimate Team you can buy packs and open cards, and you can build out a stronger Ultimate Team. And
pay to win
those
kind of stuff.
loot boxes got banned in Europe, and there's like a class action lawsuit. I don't know if whatever happened with that, but those loot boxes got classified as gambling, and you can't take those. Like, there's no monetary value attached to that. It's just
Right.
you are spending money to see what you get, and it's an undetermined outcome. So in theory, if you're yes, you get 2 free packs a day, but if you are spending real money on Pokegold or a premium, that could, in theory, or not even in theory, that is basically the same thing because you're opening packs with undetermined outcomes. And also, I mean, I know we're linking around this topic a little bit, but it comes down to digital ownership, which is a huge topic because you're like buying a game with a digital code, things like that, and they shut the servers down. Like, now you no longer have access to your game, you don't have access to your save files, things like that, versus physical copies. So, you could still get that base game in theory. So
I mean, there's a lot of gray zone in that, right? Because even Steam changed something. I forgot what it was, but they changed something that was like, you purchase the license to the game now. You're not purchasing the game anymore. You're purchasing a license for it. And so the same thing is like, with the cards, you're purchasing the license to the card. But if the service ever goes down, they're not going to give it back.
Yeah, I mean, it's also too, like, right, if you spent $1,000 on skins for a game and then you get banned, right? And now, like, all that money is just gone. And I know, like, the things we're talking about, that's all like legal mumbo jumbo in terms of service that protect the companies, but should that even be possible? Depending on what the violations are. And like, some of the appeals process on this stuff is so bad, and it's really easy to like, not cheat the system, but like trick it. Like, if everybody is like mass reporting somebody on a team, even though they're not really doing anything, like, you're running a 6-player game and 5 people are on a team or in a group, and they all report like the one solo queue, and that person gets banned for like toxic behavior, and it's like, I didn't even fucking do anything, and it's just all based off AI, right? Like, it's not a real person banning you, it's just AI.
Very rarely it gets in front of a real person.
It doesn't get in front of the real person probably until it's the pill. So I don't know, digital ownership stuff is kind of weird, and I don't know, here I am, like I said, spending real money on Pokemon, and they can shut the game down tomorrow, and it's just like, oh,
I
well,
know.
all that money's gone. Cool, that's cool.
It's all digital, it's all fake, it's all, it could be like the next TikTok ban. It could get banned tomorrow, and then all of that's gone, and whatever. But at least you get entertainment out of it. That's like the positive.
Yeah.
You're entertained for a while. So as long as the experience is good, and I mean, that's like when you pay $50 or whatever, $70 for a video game, and you don't ever get that back. So
yeah, you got to sweeten your offer, by the way, for these game consoles of mine. So I got you another one. I got the OG PlayStation. So I don't know if you already have that, but
I don't.
Yeah, so she messaged me, the lady in my neighborhood, and she's like, hey, I got a PlayStation with controllers. So she's like, no games, but it's a system that works. Do you want it? I was like, yeah, for sure. So she didn't charge me for it, but I was like, I'm
awesome. I tried to sweeten the pot last time. You said no.
Yeah, we need deluxe edition Assassin's Creed now.
Yeah. I told you that's fair. I'll buy you Shadows.
That's coming out soon, right? I've been hearing some people have been reviewing it.
It's like already. In a month. It's late February or mid to late February.
Let's see. Yeah, I think review codes are already out there. I can swear I've seen people talking about that they've been.
It's probably because it's a long game. I would imagine it's long.
March 20th, 2025. Oh, I don't know. Maybe I'm tripping. That's really early code. If
there's been play tests. I don't think there are codes out yet.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what it probably was? People are probably doing previews. So the normal cadence, what you would do in a launch is you have announcement, and then like first gameplay, and then like announce like major features. And then a game like this probably wouldn't have a beta or anything like that, but you would do like major features / trailer drop. So like you announce if you're doing this around E3, just as an easy example, announce in May, show off gameplay at Summer Games Fest, do like a major beat around key features in July, drop like launch date / like trailer at Gamescom, and then September you would do like your final preview build, and then you would give out codes towards the end of the month for reviews, and your game would launch like mid-October. That's like the normal, pretty standard AAA timeline for a PR campaign. So yeah, they're probably doing final previews right now, and then they'll probably put out code at like end of February. Give people like 3 weeks to review it, hopefully. You'll always be able to tell if a studio is confident in a game, depending on if reviews go live before official launch. If reviews go live like a couple days before launch, then they're like probably expecting the game to be pretty good. But if reviews are embargoed until launch date, then they're nervous. That means like then mock reviews are not coming in as positive as they were hoping. Games probably scoring like the high 60s, mid 70s, and they're trying to keep that sentiment away from the public until after most people bought it.
I was always, the mock reviews, like who do they get to do those? Are they like ex-journalists or something?
It's usually ex-journalists.
Can they be an actual journalist and just agree not to post anything? Like what's the deal with that? Like that's gotta be such a specialized.
I've heard of companies specifically asking for some people to do mock reviews, because if they'll do a mock review, that means they pretty much can't do an official review, because it's like a conflict of interest.
They'll try and
if they're like
gate
worried,
them away.
Yeah, like if like the company's like, if this like one reviewer is kind of a hard ass, they might ask that person to do a mock so that it keeps them away from doing a Metacritic scored review.
That's a strategy.
I've heard of that happening before, but mostly it's people who are former journalists, have been in the industry, and they've gone in-house and they're working for like a studio or whatever, and they're just looking for extra cash, so they do a mock. It's not never, because the scenario I just told you, but like the scenario I told you, it's usually like very, very small outlets, like maybe like a 1 or 2 person team, and they'll go to that team and see about a mock. Like nobody at IGN or GameSpot,
right? None of the big
outlets, like those guys are never hit up about mocks, ever. It's like a super no-no. Plus, the studios or publishers, they don't want to go to those guys because, frankly, those are your most eyeballs, right? So you wouldn't want to gatekeep GameSpot from doing a review, because you want GameSpot to review your game for Metacritic and be posting articles about it, right? So even if you're worried about those outlets doing bad reviews, you just take the risk, because there's just too many eyeballs.
Yeah, because I can't remember. I mean, that's got to be such a specialist job. I can't imagine there's more than like 1,000 people in the industry that can even do mock reviews. You think more than that?
There's probably like the same like 25 people, honestly, doing mocks for everybody.
Less.
Yeah, way less.
Because it's just like, they've just been doing it, and people just get passed around from game to game, and they just like
there's probably 25, 50 like people who do 90% of the mock reviews. There's also companies, right, that just like do mock reviews. So, and some former journalists work for those companies,
right,
and do it. But yeah, I think there's like a handful of companies that most major publishers go to, and then there's like a subset of like freelance journalists that will do them. But yeah, like I'd say it's probably like a group of like 50 people max.
I want that job. It's like no pressure, because
it sounds good, but like I've read the mocks, dude. They're long. Like they're long reviews. It's not just like, it's not like reading a GameSpot review that's like a page. Bad. It's like
thumbs up,
here
thumbs down.
Is this thing. Here's what I don't like about it.
It's like a house inspection.
Yeah, it's like 20 pages long. Like they go over like every feature, graphics, like bugs, everything. Like, this is what we think the public's gonna think. This is like what we think. Here's what we think. Like, here's what we score it. Here's what I score it. Here's what I think the score range is gonna be. So like they're very in depth. It's not something that like gets turned around Like, and plus they got to play the fucking game, right?
Yeah.
So, and that obviously depends on how much it costs to they are going to charge, but you're playing a 30-hour game and then you're putting another
50 hours, not that much, but
like
another
5 to 10 hours into doing a really, like 10 hours into doing a really in-depth deep dive into the game, so you're committing like 40 hours, but they're probably charging like $5,000 for that minimum.
Probably more than that. But yeah.
I used to be like, I don't know now, but like 5 years ago, it's like the quotes I'd seen like $5,000.
Right. Companies getting like 10 of them or something, 10 different people.
Yeah, no, it's usually like probably like 3 or 4.
Okay.
But you think about it, like $5,000 at 40 hours, $125 an hour. Like that's not nothing.
No, I mean, that's kind of like what we're doing for free right now. So not that we're reviewing games, but like, just playing games and talking about them. But that makes sense. That's cool. I wanted to ask you about that. Have you been playing anything else or just like TCG?
I'm sorry. What was that? I just got a text message.
I'd say, have you been playing anything else? TCG is it?
I mean, in China, it's definitely just Pokemon. And then, like I said, a little bit of Delta Force. I did buy Stellar Blade. When I was in China,
yeah.
I was in China and it was the Best Buy deal of the day for $39.99. And that's the cheapest it's been on sale. And then I had a $5 certificate from Best Buy. So I got it for $35 plus tax. So I was like, dope. Finally. After
Did it come with the Nier skin?
I don't know. I think it's just the base game.
Yeah.
Hopefully, though, because I definitely don't want to pay for it. But, me and 2B, we are meant to be.
Meant to be. God damn it. Yeah. I've been playing a game that I normally wouldn't be like in my wheelhouse, but I think would be totally in yours. I've been playing Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth. And have you played any of the Yakuza games? This is actually probably more of a Tyler game, to be honest, and he's not here. So it's like...
Which game is it? Yakuza?
Yeah, Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth. It was the most recent one that came out. And it got really high reviews. And so I was like, I kind of wanted to dive into the Yakuza series a little bit. And so I got it. And I mean, I like it a lot, but it is a quirky as fuck game. And very much that like Japanese, theme of where they like to have a very serious game with very unserious like mini games. Like Final Fantasy does that shit too. Like a lot of games will do that. It'll be like, hey, the world is at stake right now, but let's take a break and sing karaoke. Like that kind of shit.
Yeah.
And so I'm playing that, and I knew that going in because Yakuza especially is known for that, of having like karaoke and like you can like race little cars and stuff. Like there's like a shit ton of random mini games that have nothing to do with the game itself. And they're all really quirky, and like you're playing this like badass Yakuza guy, but he's like racing RC cars, on the side or something. So it's very quirky, and I had probably like 8 or 9 hours in, and I'm like basically just got to the first part of the game. Like I didn't realize that I had been playing essentially the prelude of the game. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, let's go to this like whole new area. So the game takes place in Hawaii, but you start off in Tokyo, or not Tokyo, but in Japan. And so for the longest time, I thought the game took place in Japan. For like literally, I was like playing like 8 hours in this like area. And then it was like, oh, here, we're going to go to the real game. And then like this whole huge map and like, all this more shit to do. And I'm like, oh my God, this is just the intro? Like, I haven't even started the fucking game yet. I'm not even in the main area. I was like, oh my God, this game's going to be fucking long.
We should talk about it if we ever get Liana on here, because I think she's a big Yakuza fan.
I would love to, because the game is so weird, but in like a really good way. I don't know, like I can't put my finger on it, but I will say though, it feels like it hasn't made any like the game design of it hasn't progressed at all since like 2010. Like
is that
it's
good
like
though? I mean, is it like just got its like
I mean
thing?
It depends. I think if you're probably like a hardcore Yakuza fan of the series, you probably would say yes. Me as somebody who's new and just jumping in, I'm going to say no. But it definitely feels like they like are stuck in 2010, and they are like a lot of the like common mechanics and the feel and the rigidity and stuff like that. It like feels back like from that era. I mean, there's a lot of things like the graphics are obviously better, and the cutscenes are really cool and so on and so forth. But like, if you were to just downgrade all of that and put it in 2008, 2009, 2010, like you totally think that the game is from that era just because of like the way it is. I
Yeah.
mean, like the dialogue, for instance, is like super stiff, like that kind of like stiff, like they don't, like I don't know how to describe it, but like it just seems like very forced. Like it doesn't seem like, I don't know. It
Not
doesn't
very
seem like
natural.
natural. It's not very natural. However, that being said, the characters are great. The characters are, even though the dialogue is very rigid and it's like very forced, like a lot of the like cutscenes and stuff are like very forced, and you're like, I would say so. Like out of the 8 or 9 hours that I've played, probably like 3 hours of that is just like cutscenes and talking. So it's like one of those games where it's like very heavily like you're locked into a conversation with somebody and you're watching like all these things happen. And they spend quite a bit of time catching you up on the previous games, which is actually very nice for someone like me who hasn't played any of them, because like he'll literally be like, "Hey, remember me? I'm from blah blah blah," and then they'll show like a cutscene of the previous game for like a minute, and it'll be like, "Oh," I was like, "Okay, so this is someone we know already," and I'm like, that's kind of nice because there's clearly like a grand history in the Yakuza games. I mean, there's like 15 of these games, between Like a Dragon and the Yakuza series.
Yeah.
And so it's like I have no way of being able to catch up on all the characters and all the relationships and stuff. So it's like they quite often will do these like kind of recaps through the
So
game.
it's
They'll be
all in
like,
this, all these games in the same universe. They're all like actual sequels or prequels.
yeah, yeah, exactly. They all are one contiguous long story. But
It's so long. That's so anime.
yeah. I think they're different characters though. So like for instance, Like a Dragon. I don't know if all the Like a Dragons are Ichiban, but the main character in this one is Ichiban Kasuga, and he's been the main character for a while in some of the games, but he's not the same main character from like the original Yakuza games. And I don't know. I think he's just in Like a Dragon. Maybe he like appears in the other games. I'm speaking on things I don't know, so I'm not quite sure. But I know that you don't always play as the same person, but the story is the same, like in the same storyline. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah. So not the same thing, but I didn't know until like a few years ago. This is gonna sound really bad, but I didn't know that every Final Fantasy game had a different characters. I
Oh,
always
really?
thought that they were always like Cloud and Tifa, because that's who you always see. Like those are like seven
Yeah.
is definitely the most popular cast of characters, right?
Mhm.
Like they're everywhere. So I had no fucking idea that like every game of the 16 Final Fantasies, like that they're only in 7. And I was like, oh, that's fucking weird, because like why the hell is Cloud and Tifa and uh, those fucks so popular versus all the other games? So yeah,
Yeah.
anyways, just because you brought up like playing different characters
Yeah.
and different games, that kind of made me think of Final Fantasy. And I was like, yeah, I had no idea that was a thing.
Yeah. All the Final Fantasies are different. They're completely standalone. And if sometimes some of them do have sequels, but then it will be like Final Fantasy. So like Final Fantasy 10, but then there's like Final Fantasy 10 2, right?
Yeah,
So it's like
yeah.
part 2 or whatever. But yeah, those ones are tough to follow. Did you know that the Zelda series supposedly is in one contiguous universe, even the ones that don't seem like they're related at all? They actually have a
That's
timeline.
a
You could
fan theory, right? I
no,
imagine.
you could go to Nintendo and there's a timeline. However, it's kind of like loose. It's kind of like it's like the whole theory or the whole thing I think is that Link there is
Well, Link
like
is
a
always waking up from like a deep slumber or whatever, right? Like the start of the games,
yeah, like
kind of.
it's not time traveling. It's like he like is like reborn like every so often, or like yeah, like or he falls asleep or whatever and then is like brought to a new generation. So the whole idea is that he's like the same hero throughout time, but like in different eras and stuff like that.
I feel like there's like a movie or another story that's like this, where
Let me see if I can find the Zelda timeline,
I
the
mean, in a way, it's kind of
official.
like Luffy being with Joy Boy to a certain extent, but that's like, but no, there's another one where there's also like the Matrix with the Chosen One, and every Matrix iteration, there's the Chosen One is always like reborn, as you know. So it's like,
yeah,
this is our sixth Matrix, but you know, every time, like even though we've tried to eliminate you in the code, like you always appear.
Yeah, exactly. Here, I'm gonna send this to you because it's Nintendo.com.
So like you're rescuing the princess, but it's like a different, like, that was my grandma you rescued last time.
Exactly. So it's like, yeah, all the Zeldas are the same, right? It's like Zelda and Link are these like key people that just constantly keep getting reborn throughout time and are like kind of destined to repeat. That sounds actually like that sounds like a fucking nightmare. Actually, it's like you are destined to repeat history forever.
It's like a terrible version of Groundhog's Day with like no humor. Although that's very ReZero.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
Not quite, but say like you find Alice Island, basically the first episode of ReZero. For a little anime tangent for y'all. But basically,
this episode's all tangents.
ReZero, the character like wakes up in like a new universe and like encounters people and different shit, and then if he's killed, he reverts back to the beginning of the day. And then throughout the anime, if he gets so far along, like if he lives for like 3 or 4 days or whatever, then like a new checkpoint is like created, and that's where he like will start again. And so like the whole anime is like him basically trying to, like, something terrible will happen and he like is trying to like solve it, you know, and so he like dies and like starts over. He dies, he starts over. And
I have a good tangent for that. I wish you had waited a little bit because I kind of wanted to talk about like anime, but like this is too good of a transition point to skip.
All right, heavy.
So I've been trying to get into like game dev again, you know, trying to like do that. So I've been doing a lot of research by, you know, not only like doing real research, but playing games. And one of the games that I've been playing is Outer Wilds. Do you know? Whoa, sorry, excuse me. Do you know like the premise of that game? Oh, a little bit of a spoiler. So if anybody is like wants to play that game completely blind, skip a couple minutes. So in Outer Wilds, but this game has been like hailed as, you know, an amazing experience and stuff like that.
It's been a couple years now too, right?
Yeah, I think it came out in 2022.
Yeah, so fuck you guys if it's spoilers. You should have played it already.
So it's a game that's all about exploration. And so what it is you're an alien kind of creature on this like little planet who has this like really shitty space program, and you're launching into space, and there's a solar system with different planets on it. And you go and you're trying to, you know, in the beginning you're trying to like get more information on this like mysterious alien race. But after a certain amount of time, the sun explodes and just destroys the entire universe or galaxy. And then you wake up back at, you know, day one. And so the whole game is about having to try and figure out why the sun is exploding. And so like, you know, you're talking about like resetting and trying to get further and stuff like that. It's like exactly that, because this game is so cool in that I've only played like a few hours of it so far, and I want to like dive real deep, and I would love to do videos about it, but I know that it's like that YouTube is super saturated with videos on this, so maybe not worth it. But it's like the game has no, like, you're only given a couple of tools in the beginning, and that's like what you get, and the whole game is very like intrinsic value. It's a lot of like you trying to figure it out on your own without a lot of hand holding, and so it's like you literally have to fly to like these planets with your spaceship, land like manually, like you're flying like a drone kind of a thing, and then walk around and try and find like, you know, text tablets and things like that to get information on this like old alien race, you know, because you're the first astronaut with a translator for this alien race. So you can read their text when no one else could in the past. And so you're trying to go through and, you know, and get all this information. It does save your notes, which is really nice. So it's like when you like see something, it'll be like, hey, this mentioned this planet. Maybe we should go to that planet or something like that. But other than that, like, it doesn't help you at all. It just kind of like, it says, hey, here's some possible avenues, some leads into information. But other than that, like, do what you want, like just explore do whatever, and things are constantly happening in the universe. It's kind of like Majora's Mask, where it's like every 3 days you reset. You're trying to find that like optimal path for that the new information that you're trying to get. So it sounds a lot like that. It reminded me, and I think
Speaking
it was
of
really cool.
Majora's Mask, I like fucking pissed this kid off in high school about Majora's Mask because he was playing Majora's Mask and I was playing.
Yeah, hell
And
yeah. Bring rentals back. #
and I was just like, oh yeah, dude, let me just like. He's like, oh, I don't want to like. Don't tell me anything, dude. I don't want any spoilers. I was like, oh, dude, it's not really a spoiler. And I was like, just you have to collect every mask to be able to get like the Great Deity's mask or whatever the fucking final mask was. And that wasn't Majora's Mask, I don't think. It was called something else.
I think you're right. Great DD's mask.
And like that mask is what you kind of needed to like just mob through the end of the game. And do the guy gets so fucking mad at me because he's like, dude, I've been fucking looking for that mask, bro. You just ruined the game for me. And I was like, oh, my bad, dude. Like, you were never gonna fucking figure it out, bitch.
Yeah, you had to have a guide to play that game.
Yeah, dude. I had the fucking Nintendo guide for that shit because some of the masks, dude, just impossible to figure out. Like, there's that one you have to go to like that random bar and like do the game like the right way, and like the reward for was the mask. And then there's the other one where like that fucking kid would like come out of like that doorway and like the like go at a very certain time of the day, like with a certain item to get him to like talk to you and give you the mask.
And if you messed up even one part of the plan, you had to restart because you weren't gonna get it. Like the timing of it was so specific.
Dude, even just getting into the first fucking temple in that game with the Deku mask, I was just sitting there like, that's where I got stuck. And I was like, I gotta go buy the guide. I don't know how the fuck to get in this place. I'm so
before
stuck.
you could Google it.
Yeah, before Google, people, the struggle was fucking real. Just sitting there like, Mom, take me to Toys R Us and I need to buy this fucking guide for the Zelda game, or you need to buy it for me because I don't have money yet.
Yeah.
I'm still like 11. But I love that game though. That was a great game. Probably like top 5 Zelda game all time for me. But
yeah, I think that's actually my favorite. Is that one? That's my number one. I mean, Ocarina of Time is a real tight second, but I just had more fun in it. I thought Majora's Mask was more complex, and I like the complexity of it. I like the mystery. Mystery is my personal favorite tool in a story. Is like having all these like weird things happen, unknowns. I love that. And Ocarina of Time certainly had that to a degree, but nowhere near what Majora's Mask was, because you just have questions. You're like, who's this random kid? Why does he have 2 fairies? What are these giants holding up the moon? Why is the moon coming down? Like, there's just all these like shit going on. You're like, what is going on?
Yeah, all right. Hit me with your top 5 Zelda games in order. I'll go
Majora's
first.
Mask.
I'm probably gonna
Ocarina
say
of Time.
Ocarina of Time first for me. Probably put Majora's Mask second. I put Link to the Past third.
Same.
I'd probably put Wind Waker fourth. And I'd probably
never played that
do
one.
Breath of the Wild fifth. Even though I know you hate Breath of the Wild.
I hate it.
I hate the durability of Breath of the Wild. Everything else about the game was amazing. I don't think the Master Sword should be able to decay. If I didn't do Majora's, or if I didn't do Breath of the Wild,
I would say, I mean, okay, I agree. So far, I'm Majora's Mask, Ocarina of Time, then Link to the Past, then I would have to say, I'm looking up a list so I can...
Brain refresh.
Yeah, so I can remember everything. I never did play Wind Waker. I know that one got like what people are very...
I was super anti Wind Waker because I didn't like the art style at first. And then I finally started playing it on Wii U and I was like, oh, this game's amazing. And like the art style really grew on me. One game I'll say my most disappointing Zelda that I was really excited for was Twilight Princess. I really wanted to like Twilight Princess. I just did not like turning into the wolf.
Yeah, I couldn't get into that one either. I would say my next 2 are actually probably, well, the Super Nintendo version. Well, I guess that's Link to the Past. And then there's the Game Boy ones, which I really liked. I like the Season Ages combo. I'll count those as one. I really like those games. I thought those were good. And then, what's the Game Boy one?
What was the one they just remade for Wii? Or not for Switch. It was like based on like one of the old, like regular Nintendo ones.
Yeah.
Was it the Adventures of Link? No.
Oh, so the timelines are the unified timeline, the child timeline, the fallen hero timeline, the adult timeline, and the wild timeline. These are all the different timelines. That's interesting. So yeah, A Link to the Past, the Super Nintendo version. That's my number 3 for sure. Oh, did you ever play Skyward Sword? I don't think I ever
Didn't actually play it, no. But The Legend of Zelda, Link's Awakening, they
Link's
remade
Awakening. That's it.
Yeah,
Okay, you're right.
that's like super OG.
That would be my number
Switch.
4.
Yeah, that's probably what I would put if I didn't put Breath of the Wild there, but I got Breath of the Wild.
I just couldn't do it. I think my number 5 would just be The Legend of Zelda, the original NES game. I played that one every now and again. I never I mean I beat it before, but I never I just like the first 30 minutes of that game is just so good. So I just like to play that one.
I really want to play Echoes of Wisdom, but I just haven't yet. The one where Zelda's the protagonist.
Oh, the new one? Yeah. I kind of want to play that too.
It's the same art style as Legend of Zelda.
We have tangented on and just drolled on this episode for so fucking long. People are gonna
we haven't even
people
got
are gonna be like, dude,
time.
This is the most boring podcast I've ever heard in my fucking life because these guys are talking about random shit.
I feel like this is stereotypical podcast. Like this is true podcast. Just sitting here, shooting the shit, coming up with random stuff to talk about, like off the cuff. Like this is like what a real podcast typically is, right? Like
that's true. Get Shane Gillis in the chair, talking shit about somebody he saw online for 5 fucking minutes.
Yeah, dude. Dude, I love his fucking... I've watched his Beautiful Dogs stand up on Netflix 6 times. And there's a really funny part where he talks about his podcast where he makes fun of women. And he's like, what do women do for fun? Fold shit? And he's like, look, I know that's a fucking bad joke for you guys out there. But for me, I get to look at and see all these women. What do you do? Fold shit? Just said so this is a really funny joke for me. And I know women, you don't even want to be here. And, you're here with your boyfriends and, you know me because you're in the car. And he's like, babe, you got to listen to this part of the podcast. And, I don't know if you've seen it, dude. You should 100% watch that stand-up.
I have it.
It's fucking hilarious. It's really good. There's literally not a bad arc of jokes throughout the whole thing.
All right, we got things to talk about. So I'm moving this on. All right. Let's hear from you. It's time to ask Pixelated Realms. Will you answer your questions?
It's time to hear from Ralph.
Yeah, basically. And we'll read your comments. If you'd like to join the conversation, head over to pixelatedrealms.org/ask. And let's dive into what you're curious about. And of course, Ralph has written in. So, yeah, we should really just rename this the Ralph segment or something. Ask Ralph.
Yeah. What's on Ralph's mind today?
What is on Ralph's mind today? Today, it is backwards compatibility. How many console cycles would you like backwards compatibility to support? For example, when PlayStation 6 comes out, will it support PS4 games that never had a PS5 upgrade? Good question. I kind of think going forward, until there's some major architectural change, I would actually expect almost all of them to be backwards compatible from basically PS4 onward. Because they used to be that the games were made very specifically for the architecture of the CPU, which was custom made generally for the console. Nowadays, a lot of the chips use very similar architectures or have ways of compiling your code that can be compiled into numerous different architectures. It's just much easier nowadays, especially when it's for your own, if you're making from PS4 to PS5 to PS6, those are all going to be very similar in architecture, and anything that changes in the future isn't going to change the architecture in general, or if it is, it's not going to become a problem without diving too deep into the technicality of it. But basically, I would expect until there's some massive this is this chip is completely brand new style of doing things, it's going to be pretty easy to have backwards compatibility, because a lot of the times now it's we just compile it. We have to make a compiler that does it, but then once we have that, any game can be kind of you don't have to emulate anything as much anymore, right? There's not a lot of emulation happening. It's actually compiled for things. I don't know. What do you think, Dustin?
So you asked what we'd like to see, right? So as a consumer, infinite, right? infinite backwards compatibility to play any game. From a manufacturer perspective, I actually don't expect it to be more than 2 cycles. So I highly doubt PlayStation 4 games will be playable on PS6. And I think that is primarily because, and this, I don't know, actually, this might not hold new water because you're still upgrading. But I think it's just all revenue driven, right? Like they want games to become obsolete because they want you to buy new games. So even if you're
and then
upgrading your
they want to
system,
remaster so you can buy the new
so
remaster.
even if you're upgrading your system, they don't want you playing a bunch of old ass games on it. They want you buying the newest games for it. And I think they'll say something, like fidelity of the system, like you're playing like this super duper hardware, and like you're not going to be able to get the like this old game is going to look like shit because it's not anything that we're doing wrong, but it's just an old game and we're not going to enhance it. So I don't know. I just think that from a business perspective and the messaging on like how they can convince you that it makes sense to not have it, I would, like I said, I think 1 cycle. You also run into the really tricky situation, not necessarily with 2 cycles old, because I don't think people could say, oh, why isn't my upgrade this or that? But like, man, when PlayStation 5 came out, like there was a bunch of people bitching about, I just bought this game on PlayStation 4 and I got to rebuy it on 5. And then you had a lot of like the publishers and that said, oh, well, if you bought a PlayStation 5, if you bought this game on PlayStation 4 like the last 6 months, you can just free upgrade to 5, the PlayStation 5 edition. And then people just expected like that to like be like forever. Like, oh, well, and it actually did for a while, because I think I bought like fucking Cyberpunk on PlayStation 4 and got the free upgrade to 5 like a couple of years after the 5 came out, So I don't know. I think it's tricky. But yeah, from a consumer perspective, I'd love for it to just be infinite, play games forever, but I don't think it'll be more than one cycle.
Yeah, that's a good point. Next question and last question. Will the Nintendo Switch 2 flop? Is it too similar to the Nintendo Switch where people won't buy the Switch 2? Other than hardcore fans as casual consumers who play the Switch for, hold on, fucking rap bullshit. Every time, maybe 4 weeks out of the year, is there a benefit for upgrading other than better resolution? So, that I think on purpose, definitely those 2 questions kind of are very related because, they already said that the Switch 2 games are likely to also play on the Switch 1 games. So it's like, if a new game comes out and I
Is
already
that
have
what they
a Switch.
said? I thought they just said that all the Switch games will be able to be played on Switch 2. I don't know.
Yes,
I'm
sorry.
not sure if it's the other way around. I think they'll probably have Switch 2 exclusive games, but saying like you could basically transfer your library forward to the Switch 2. Yeah, I'd be really surprised if a lot of games are maybe the first year they'll have games coming out for both, and then they'll slowly taper off. But again, that's also a way to get people to want to buy the new system, is saying like, oh, this game's only for Switch 2.
Yeah, I don't think Nintendo Switch 2 is going to flop. I think it's going to be a big success. I don't think it's going to be the same thing when the Switch 1 came out, though, when it's like nobody could find one. Like level of one, they said they produced more consoles this year or this time around, but also because it's not like COVID to the same, or well, I mean, I guess COVID was after, but the Switch was so novel at the time, and now it's like we're kind of over the shock of the novelty of it. But I think it's going to be very popular. I think it's going to be, and I also think people who have it are going to like give their Switch to like their like cousin, whoever the young person is in their life, and then they can buy the new one. So I think it's going to be very popular, and especially depending on the games, right? So it's like it's going to come down a lot to the games. I don't think that the actual hardware itself is going to sell the system by just like standalone, but I think if they come out with like a strong lineup of games, then I mean it's going to sell.
I mean,
and
that's
they're
been
going to come out.
Nintendo's MO forever, right? Nintendo's never had the best graphics. They don't make their games graphically intense. They make their games very vibrant and colorful, and that kind of covers up some of where it lacks in terms of like graphics compared to like the other consoles. So yeah, I mean, like their system's never sold itself on like being the best. I think it's too early to tell if it's gonna flop, because like people might give me shit in the comments for this, but the Wii U is a fantastic system. Like, it had no business selling as poorly as it did, other than people just saying, like, is it worth upgrading to a Wii U versus the Wii? But the system itself is great. Like,
I think it was also super ugly. Yeah, I know that's a weird thing, but I think people didn't want it.
The handheld wasn't very like comfortable to use. I mean, the system itself, but like, I think, yeah, like it's a big ass fucking brick, with a screen on it that really didn't add a lot. I mean, you could play the Wii U like on the tablet without your TV on. And really, you could say it's kind of like the Gen 1 Switch, and then the Switch is like actually a very upgraded version, like a refined version of the Wii U. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's too hard to tell. It's a bigger screen. They solved joysticks. It's got more features. It's got better graphics. Kind of disappointing that it has LED and not an OLED screen right off the bat.
I know. If it was OLED, it'd be a day one buy for me. But until I see the lineup, I'm not actually sure if I'm going to get one.
But I think a lot will depend on price point. I think if it gets priced at $499, like some people are guessing, I think that's going to be a tough pill to swallow for people for a handheld. Although that's still on par with Steam Deck. And that's going to be its major competitor. So it's also like the people who own Steam Deck already, like, is it enough to like go and buy a Switch 2 now? Obviously they play some different games. So yeah, it's going to be, for me, price point. How does it actually perform? And then what are the games that are come out? We know, just because it's Nintendo, like, we're going to get a couple Mario games. We're going to get a Metroid. We're going to get a couple of Zelda games. Going to get a new Mario Kart on day one, it looks like. So it's going to have all the classics. It's going to have the stuff you expect. And frankly, like, that's usually enough for most people to buy it because there's so much love for those franchises. Like, Nintendo has always been sold because it's done something a little bit different. It does that different thing better than anyone else. The Switch is the best handheld on the market, I would say, better than Steam Deck or anything else that's out there in terms of performance and like longevity. I've never heard people bitching about their Switches breaking. Yeah, there's drift, but I mean, there's drift on the fucking PlayStation 5 controllers. It's just something that happens. So it seems like they might have solved it with the magnet. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I want to see what the price is. I want to see what the lineup is, like what their roadmap for games is in the first year. Will it flop? No. Is it going to do 100 million units? Probably not. But
what if it drops with Animal Crossing Second Horizon or whatever the fuck they call it?
Yeah, I mean, Animal Crossing is going to like do fucking banger numbers for them. New Pokemon games will bring people in.
New Mario, like I said, new Metroid.
So yeah, that's usually enough for them to sell a lot. I think the Wii U only sold like 10 million units though. Wii U sells. I think it will do fine. It's probably not going to reach Switch numbers, but it'll, like 40, 50 million units.
It's going to make money for sure.
Yeah, without a doubt. Wii U sold 13.56 million units, which still did more than the PlayStation Vita. So, all
right. Well, the poor Vita wasn't given a chance to flourish. I want the Portal to be, bring back I want them to come back with like a Portal Mini, and it's just like a PSP Vita. I would love that.
Did you buy the PlayStation anniversary controller the other day? Like, they restocked it. It's like $230, dude. I cannot fucking believe how much that controller is.
I already have one, but no.
Did you get the one that's like the Pro one that you can remove the everything? That's what it was. It was like the Pro controller that you can remove the thumbsticks and shit like that.
I actually have the Pro controller, but like in the normal version. I think I got it for my birthday or something random. But
so before we move on, I'm looking at the best system sales all time. Switch sold 146 million units, it's third best all time. Nintendo DS is 154 and PlayStation 2 is 160. The Wii sold 102 million units. So, I mean, in that regard, yeah, the Wii U is a massive failure compared to like basically most other systems. Nintendo 64 surprisingly only sold 33 million units.
Really?
which is kind of wild.
Must have been before. I mean, that was probably before gaming was kind of like.
Well, I don't
That
know. The
was like
regular NES sold
happened?
62 million units.
Interesting.
That's the original NES. Where the fuck? Super Nintendo sold 49 million units. So yeah, the 64 didn't really do super well. And then GameCube only sold 22 million units. But that was always a weird system. The little mini discs, like that was
Yeah.
just that was
I
kind of
mean,
weird.
I liked it a lot. A lot of us did, but yeah, I think there was also a lot of competition at that time that was just superior. Because let's see, the Dreamcast was also around like the 64, between 64 and GameCube, and then that was PS2. Just let me see, was the PS2? How far into the GameCube life cycle was that?
But the Wii U is basically the least selling major console. The only one that you could say was worse were the Sega systems. You had Sega Saturn at 9 and Dreamcast at 9 million. But other than that, like from the major systems, Wii U is like the worst. And then GameCube, and then Xbox sold 24 million. Xbox Series X and S, according to the statistics, have only sold 28 million units. That's fucking insane.
Wow.
That's
Yeah,
horrible.
that's not good.
When PlayStation 5 has sold 66 million,
I'm
which
kind of
even that
surprised,
feels low.
but
How
not a
far
lot
into
of
its life cycle is it? PlayStation 5 came out in 2019, no, 2020.
5 years.
Yeah, it's about 4.5 years. PlayStation 4 launched in 2013, so that was like a 7-year life cycle, and it sold 117 million. So the idea that PlayStation 5 would double its sales in the next 2 years is like
That's never gonna
unlikely,
happen.
very
That's crazy.
unlikely.
7 years. So like in 2 years we could have a PlayStation 6. That's wild. I mean,
I mean, that's probably pretty normal, right? Because the Pro just came out, and so
all right. Well, let's move on to our big topic. We gotta
live
gotta start.
service.
Gotta start
We're
getting
only
there.
an hour
But
in so far.
yeah, we're going way over. Well, we just want to say that we really appreciate those who follow and subscribe to us. We post new episodes every Tuesday at podcast services and YouTube. You can find us on social media, but mostly on YouTube at Pixelated Realms. Oh, I'm tired and it's showing. I'm sorry, everybody.
Drink some soda like me. Yeah.
I had a busy day today. So, okay, we wanted to talk about live services, Jesus. The reason I'm bringing this up is because, like, you know, kind of Sony mostly, but like famously, we've had a lot of big time live service cancellations happening recently. And so, you know, including there was like recently the God of War was supposed to have a live service game, Twisted Metal, Last of Us, Spider-Man even, Concord got canned, X Defiant got canned, all these like live service projects that were supposed to be these big money makers. And then like maybe like you know, Suicide Squad included, and then you'll get something like Marvel Rivals that just like sneaks into the pack. So I want to talk about, is live service games like a sustainable model? Is that
Yes.
something that, if we're spending so much money and only 1 out of every 5 games is actually, you know, making its money back, can you keep that up, you know? And or is it just that these companies don't know how to make a live service game, or are they getting too greedy? What's going on? Like, what do you think?
I think it's a little bit of a mix of different things, right? Like, if you look at like Overwatch live service game had a really long shelf life, like, you know, 9 years, from around 2016, I think. And they had Overwatch 2, but Overwatch 2 really just felt like, I mean, it's a free to play upgrade basically to the original Overwatch, you know. But like with Blizzard, you kind of have like, it's a new IP, but you have Blizzard attached to it, which has its own loyal fan base of people. It was kind of like a very, even though it was like very TF2, but there really wasn't another modern game like it on the market. And like I said, it just kind of got like the Blizzard shine to it. So yeah, it's a unique example. I don't know. Like, I think like,
can you name one that's recent other than Marvel Rivals? I guess that's the only one I can think of that has come out in the last 3 years or whatever, 4 years, that, you know, has made a splash. That's not just like a niche.
well, okay, what do we define as like live service? Like,
Well,
just an ongoing game of like just continuously having like content that's purchasable? Or are we talking like loot boxes, like skins? Like,
it's a good question, because I mean, I would say like it's hard from the gamer perspective to define, I think, a live service. To like, and from a business perspective, I think it's a lot easier because you could say it's like a live service game is something, and this is something we've tried to define in the past, right? And to varying degree of success, but it's like from a business perspective, it's just a game that they're going to continue to put money into, hoping to get more continuously a stream of money out of it, like from more than just the purchase price, whether that's free to play or not. So it's like they're new content and some kind of monetization other than just purchase.
I mean,
so, yeah,
like we think about live service, right? But like back in the day, it was just like expansions. Like there was just like a live service is a fancy way of saying expansion
Warcraft
now.
3 Frozen Throne or whatever.
You know, but I mean, I guess like the thing with live service. Okay, so I'm gonna define modern live service as games with cosmetics, purchasable cosmetics, because I think and season passes. Because I think when you look at
how about just monetization? Anything that's monetized other than just well, I guess it's DLC.
I don't know, because I don't like thinking of DLC as live service, because what I think that like companies have basically done, instead of waiting a year to drop an expansion, they're taking like splitting it into 4 like DLCs, right? And then it's kind of coming out more frequent. So every 3 months you're getting a content drop. Is that really live service, or is that just like DLC? Like, I don't think so. I think if it's a season pass or cosmetics are attached, I think that feels like more live servicey to me. But again, it's kind of hard to define exactly what it is.
Kind of a gray zone.
But I would say other successes, and this is like what we talked about pre-record. We could dive into this more later, but I think the free-to-play model has proven to be the most successful. And sure, Rivals is out there, that's mainstream FPS, or maybe it's third person. But Zenless Zone Zero, Genshin, Honkai Star Rail, those are all Hoyoverse games, and I'm pretty sure those are all live service games where you're just constantly spending money for content or for skins or whatever it might be, or for paying to win mechanics. I've never played Zenless or Genshin. I played a little bit of Honkai on mobile. I think those are all classified live service games, and they're all free to play. So, well, I'm curious to see if we'll see Concord come back as free to play, and if that'll kind of give it a new breath of fresh air.
That one's dead. I think they announced like the team got dissolved.
I think the team got dissolved. I think that.
I remember seeing something along like because we all thought that too. Like we were thinking, oh, maybe it's gonna come back as a live service. But I remember reading somewhere that like, nope, it's dead. Like that game is not coming back. But I would say I agree that I think the free to play model is gonna bring the people, because the problem with live service games is it really comes down to like saturation, right? Is if you're expecting your players to devote a significant amount of time into your game, that means they're taken away from other games, right? So there's going to be big fish like Fortnite, like Call of Duty, Destiny at one point, Overwatch, these like live service games that are successful that are going to be pulling the players in and sucking away the players from other live service games. So it's like,
you can't see if it as a live service game?
Yeah,
it is,
totally.
right?
I totally would. But so it's like, it's very hard to compete to create a new live service game in a genre that already exists, because the players are already invested. They've already spent real money. They spent time, effort, experience in another game of a very similar type oftentimes. And so they are not going to want to switch, because they're like, well, I'm not starting over. And unless, it has something extremely enticing, I'm just not going to do it. Like, I'll use Concord and Marvel Rivals, I think, is the easiest, because we have Overwatch. So Overwatch was like the OG in that field. Well, I mean, not the most OG, but let's just use that as the kind of like standard for now.
Team-based shooter.
Yeah. And then, Concord came out and flopped. And then people are like, oh, it's because it's, nobody wants to switch and da-da-da-da-da-da. And, Concord sucked. Maybe it wasn't Concord's fault. Maybe it's like nothing will survive the live service. And then Marvel Rivals came out, exact same thing, but has been doing really well. So it's like it had to make...
Almost cost money on street. one's also leveraging the Marvel IP, and the other one's a brand new IP.
That's where I was going to go with that. Is like, well, one, I think the free to play thing did help a lot, but I think that the Marvel IP is doing a lot of lifting here because you feel already invested in that universe. So you're bringing a little bit of that investment with you. And in a live service, that is very important. Like your level of investment. In Concord, you know literally nothing about this world, and they didn't do a very good job of creating the lore before the game came out. They honestly should have put out like a fucking anime or something first, and then done it.
I don't
Because
know. Like, I read some guy talking about this a little bit with Concord on LinkedIn, and I hated this argument, and I feel like kind of a little bit the same thing what you're saying. It's like, he was talking about Indiana Jones. He said Indiana Jones is flopping because Indiana Jones is made for like 50-year-olds, and that no young people who play video games are invested in the Indiana Jones IP, and that's why it's failing. But if that was true, then nobody would make any game that's not a new IP. There's tons of games that are new IPs that are successful. So I don't think that it's necessarily the fact that like Concord is a new IP that nobody's invested in that had it fell. I do think they didn't do a great job marketing it. I think that they could have did other things. I really think a huge amount of it was the price point. I didn't think the trailers were great at really showing off the game. It just felt like the cinematics didn't really like make you invested in the characters, and then like what you did see really did feel like very Overwatch clone.
Which is funny because Marvel Rivals is very, very much an Overwatch clone. Like some of the characters are like literally copy and paste of different things, but like that's okay because it's actually like it's for speak the language already. I actually think that's one of the reasons why Marvel Rivals is successful is because people can transition their skills from Overwatch to Marvel Rivals very easily because they already know the mechanics. But I agree with everything you're saying. I think they're a little different because, like, to me, Indiana Jones is different from a live service game in that it's a very contained experience and it's very story driven. So it's like if let's say you're not like an Indiana Jones fan and you know nothing about it, it's a great place to enter and learn about it and become invested. When a live service, it kind of comes with, I think the name is almost a curse in a way because the word live service is because it's like, okay, I'm already expected to put a lot of time and effort into something that, like beyond the 10, 20 hours of the actual game itself. Then I know that they're going to try and get like money from me. And so it's like, in order for me to want to do that, I have to feel like I have bought in on this particular game.
What do you think is to blame for live service games? I'm going to get really broad and like philosophical here about it. What do you think caused live service games to...
I think executives caused it to
Absolutely
fail.
Not. Absolutely not. Consumers, gamers are the reason live service exists because
Well, I know why it exists. That's a different question. But I also know
why. Why do you think it became so prevalent?
Because there's a 0.0001% population who will spend thousands of dollars in a game, and they realize that, hey, these fucking whales will pay a shit ton of money. Okay, what is it then?
Nope. It is because before live service really started like taking over a ton, you've seen some games out there that were able to hold player base for years and years.
Yeah.
Due to rank. And I'll go like a step further than that, and it's progression. Progression systems that existed that encouraged people to continuously play. So you have League of Legends with their rank system. You had Counter-Strike. You had other games, and you saw these studios or publishers or executives are seeing these people have been fucking playing League of Legends for 10 years, and they still play every day. How can we create this in our game so that people want to continuously play? We need to insert a meaningful progression system into our title so that people will want to continue to play even after they beat the main story. And I think that is where we started really seeing a huge shift to live service is around the Overwatch time frame coming out, because you started seeing a wave of studios, publishers trying to recreate what they were seeing in these handful of really what esports titles for the most part. or even like World of Warcraft, and obviously World of Warcraft continuously had content coming out, but World of
Mm-hmm.
Warcraft at its core is still very live service, right? Oh, you know, I think gamers kind of pushed live service into it because gamers wanted progression. They wanted to continue to be able to have new content or stuff to do for the games they love. And I don't think that like every game has failed at creating good live service mechanics, but I do think they started wavering too far into season passes that revolved heavily around cosmetics. And that's where I think people started getting really frustrated. They didn't feel like the content was meaningful. It was more like gimmicky in ways of like, take my money and like give me like a new skin or a new weapon or some crap like that, instead of feeling like, yeah, like meaningful
Value, like intrinsic value. Yeah.
So yeah, and I think that's where we got is they just couldn't figure out how to recreate that meaningful experience that they were seeing in these other games that had sustained player bases for so long. And the studios at this point are just giving up because they're like, it's the same thing. Like we've seen it with the progression systems and battle passes and live service, but we also saw around that same time a wave of games coming out where publishers or studios were trying to force their game to be an esport title. And esports titles have never been created that way. Esports titles have always been created
Natural
by
from the community.
The community decides like, hey, this game is going to be an esport because they started having like evergreen like tournaments popping up and whatever over the years, and you try to force that. And like Overwatch probably did the best at actually trying to force it, but even they failed miserably at the end. But not like, well, frankly, they're just sustainable. Shit tons of money. Overwatch set the fucking esports industry back like 10 years because they had so many major sponsors buying on it. The team was spending $30 million buy-ins to have a team. All this shit. None of those teams made their money back. None of those sponsors made their money back.
So they're not going to want to do it again.
All because they were trying to reach, the younger audience. So yeah, man, I don't know. I think gamers are to blame.
I don't think what you said is mutually exclusive from what I said. I actually think they work in tandem. I think I think it's the same thing. I agree with what you're saying, that like they were trying to capture these like communities of players that have been playing these games for a very long time. And so like what I was saying is, but the reason why it's being made is because there's money to be made there, right? We don't make those games for free.
Yeah, so they want people to play it because it's more money.
It's the cause and the effect, right? It's like, okay, all these players are on this game and it's causing us to make a lot of money, because people are buying these microtransactions. All right, how do we do that? And then I think, the question I thought you were asking in the beginning was like, why do I think live service games aren't succeeding? Like why haven't they figured out the template yet? And I think there's a couple reasons, and I think you tapped on a lot of them. And I almost think you were really close to a good definition of live service. And I'd almost say like endless progression in one way or another, whether it's, through experience or ranked or, whatever it is probably like as close to a definition as we can get on these things, along with something about constant content being released.
Yeah, because League is slowly dropping skins, but not only are they dropping skins, they're dropping new playable characters
and stuff,
regularly. And each time those characters drop, it shifts the meta, which makes the people kind of have to relearn or switch heroes, constantly redefining like what roles look like amongst the game. But yeah, I mean, I guess to take it a step like further, including monetization, gamers showed that they do not mind playing the same game for long, sustained periods of time. That made studios and publishers and executives think, hey, this kind of sustained player base exists. How can we recapture this in our game? Because if we can recapture it and we can have people playing our game for 5 to 10 years, there is a lot of money to be made from being able to do that. So that kind of adds on that monetization point at the end.
Yeah. And I think the reason why I truly think that, I think that saturation is part of it, but it's that if these executives think that, oh, okay, these live service games, let's, Overwatch, League of Legends, whatever, it has these things in it. It has a way to level up, and it has a battle pass, and it has a ton of skins. Players must love those. So, and they're cheap to make. So let's put any old fucking game let's give them an unlimited amount of random, like repetitive, boring shit to do, because apparently they like that, which they don't. And let's give them a battle pass with skins. That's it, right? That's the magic. But it's not. They totally missed the whole reason people play it is because they get invested in, like you were saying, like the communities, right? You feel like you're part of a community. Like Suicide Squad, I'm going to use that as an example. There is no fucking community for that game. There is no want for that game because it's like the game, like, even if the mechanics and stuff were good, there's nobody who's like, hey, like, let's use Call of Duty as the counterpoint. It's like in Call of Duty, you're like, I'm playing with my friends after school or after work where, it's a hard day. And I just want to go and kill some shit, feel like a badass and do whatever. And the fact that I get the prestige to do all these other things keeps me invested. So I'm building my community, right? In Suicide Squad, like, there's none of that desire. You're not like, hey, let's get the boys and let's go kill Superman. Like, it doesn't have the same appeal, especially when the missions are just repetitive and non-PvP. So it's like, hey, we're just doing the same thing over and over and over again, as opposed to like, hey, we're doing like PvP stuff. And I'm not saying PvP is the golden ticket to live service. A lot of the times that's failed. Like, let's look at X Defiant. Clearly that one got canned too. And that one was free to play. So, there's obviously some secret sauce missing there. But it's like they kind of like a lot of these, like, and I don't think the developers at the low level think this. I think like executives think like, hey, if we just give them something to do and we give them a battle pass so they think that there's constant stuff coming out, that they'll play it. But that's not true. It's like you have to build a community within that game. And so moving to a new community is very hard.
I mean, ranked, I think, is definitely the catalyst for a successful live service game. Like having competitive ranked play built into your game.
Excuse me.
And like, yeah, like, there's other games that have PvP that have failed on live service, but the game still has to have a community. It needs to be good. It needs to be compelling enough to where people want to keep coming back. But yeah, you look at the major live service games that are successful. I mean, like League, it's ranked. Overwatch for forever was ranked. Kept people coming back. Especially
Fortnite,
because ranked is where you get the most optimal experience for a game. Like, without that system in there, like, you play quick play Overwatch, it's a fucking horrible experience. And like, ranked isn't always the best experience, but typically you have people trying, so you're gonna have 2 healers, you're gonna have 2 tanks, you're gonna have 2 DPS, you're gonna have people trying to work together as a team. That is the closest experience you're gonna get to playing the game as the developer intended. It's the same thing with League. It's the same thing with Counter-Strike. You have people who are like, it's like people in high school are playing quick play who like don't give a fuck about what they're doing. You have people who want to practice. You have people who don't give a fuck, just fucking around. But then there's like ranked is like college. Okay, like most people are here because they choose they want to be here. So they're trying to do well.
I mean, I don't know if ranked is like the magic bullet, but I think it is one of the ways to make a live service, because like Helldivers 2, Genshin, let me look, Sea of Thieves, like No Man's Sky, I don't know if I would consider that one a live service, but
I think
like,
from
these
like
don't have
the
ranked.
PvP based games that are primarily PvP focused, multiplayer focused, ranked is paramount. You have to have it. Like, yeah, No Man's Sky, it's not really that type of game.
Yeah.
I don't know if Genshin is either. I don't think so. There was one game you mentioned in there that like is kind of like more multiplayer focused. But I mean, look at Sea of Thieves, right? Sea of Thieves has their battle pass, and I don't give a fuck about going back and playing Sea of Thieves. But I guarantee you, if they dropped a fucking Tall Tale every 3 months, I would jump it back in that game every 3 months and like grind the shit out of that. I would pay $5 to go play a new Tall Tale every 3 months.
The Tall Tales are good.
Yeah, they're fantastic. I mean, they're the standout feature of Sea of Thieves, and the fact that we get a new one like maybe once a year.
Yeah.
Is like a massive miss. I don't know what their active player base is. I don't know, like, if at this point it even makes sense for them because it's such an old game, But I know I'd go back and play, especially because Sea of Thieves isn't a graphically intense game. Like, it's beautiful, but it feels like something that would be on the Switch, right? Like, it's colorful, like, but yeah, you're not playing Sea of Thieves because it blows your mind, like, with the graphics. You're playing it because it's just a fun game.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'd love to see more Tall Tales, and so maybe that's also a thing of like maybe developers not truly understanding like what their players like in their games and just trying to like,
Yeah.
instead of making meaningful content, like kind of meaningful progression like we talked about, it's more so what's the easiest thing that we can kind of insert here and hopefully keep people busy. But
Yeah, and gamers like aren't dumb on any level. Like we can tell when there's just something slipped in to try and make us spend money. You know what I mean? Like you can tell the difference when you're playing a game and you're like when the developer actually is passionate about that game, or a game that was mandated for them to make and they had to add these features in, and there's skins and things that, you know, they're pushing on you really hard. Like you can tell. And to a certain degree, that's fine. Like we understand you got to make your money. I'm not saying that, but like you want to be able to trust the game that you're playing or the ecosystem that you're in. And if you lose that trust, especially in the beginning where you're the most fragile, right? That's when you can lose the trust the easiest. It's like, if you lose that trust, then that game is toast. And then people tell their friends, you know, and I think Suicide Squad had that problem too, is they lost trust very early on and nobody wanted to play it, as opposed to a game that has a lot of trust. Even with monetization, you know, it's like Helldivers 2 or something, you know, that's like people are like, no, this game is like, it's a good game. Like they give a shit about it. There's a lot of passion to it. You know, I would say Sea of Thieves is like that too, other than the fact that they roll out content once every 10 years. But it's, I don't know, I think it's a very complicated thing.
I think we also ran into a weird couple years there, like maybe 5 years, where gamers kind of started getting a little greedy because we started seeing a lot more live service games. We started seeing more like DLC and free content rolling out. And the idea that like a game would come out and just be like a 30-hour experience and that was it just became like unfathomable, right? Like, what do you mean?
Right.
I bought this game for $60. It's 30 hours and then it's just over. And you're like, I'm never getting more content. And like, that was just like people in people's mind. They're like, what the fuck? That's ridiculous. You know, I need more.
Yeah.
And the fact of the
Which is
matter
crazy
is
to me.
like that $60 or $70 now that you're paying for a game, that is basically money being made to pay for like the last 3, 4, 5 years of development in this game, right?
Yeah.
It covers nothing for like future content. So I think that's also why we started seeing a lot of live service, like battle passes and things like that. Because if you want more content, you have to be able to fund that content some way, right?
Yeah.
And you need monetization post launch.
Well,
to keep your devs working on this game instead of rather moving to the next game.
What would you say about like the difference then between like live service and just dropping DLC packs? So like a game like Lego Star Wars, you could buy character packs or whatever, and that funds future development. So does
But I think it's the same thing. I just think it's worded differently. You know,
it's kind of like
if
the
they
line
had a Lego Star Wars season pass and it unlocked characters, like a 3-month pass, and like you unlock 2 characters throughout that season pass, people would be bitching, but instead they drop a character pack for $10 and everyone's like, oh yeah, cool. So I think it's really the same thing. It's like I mentioned earlier, right? Like, what if World of Warcraft, instead of dropping an expansion once a year or once every other year, whatever they do, I think it's every other year, they started doing, I mean, and they drop content throughout the expansion. They like the expansion like slowly like open up new bosses and stuff. So you don't like a year into the expansion, like the final raid might open up. But if they started doing it instead, where like every 6 months you pay $15 and a new raid, like to get access to the new raid, right? And like that's how they kind of kept going. So you're still getting the same amount of content. It's just rolled out every 6 months in smaller batches. And you call that like more of a live service approach. You know, would people prefer that, or do they like the every 2-year big dump, you know? So
yeah, well, and I think live service games, I think one key difference between like the just DLC packs and live service is that like most of the time you could theoretically spend like unlimited amount of money in a live service game. I mean, there's some upper limit, but it's usually very high.
yeah.
When the DLC pack, it's like you buy the pack and you're done, right? But in like a live service game, there's like currencies and shit and chance. There's a lot more chance. So it's like, like one of the things I hate about Delta Force right now is like they have these packs where it's like, oh, hey, here's this character skin, but you can't buy the skin. You buy these like tickets, and the ticket gives you a chance to win the skin out of 1 out of 5 items. And I'm just like, just let me buy the fucking thing. Like, I'm not, like, it's like, oh, you
So
buy this,
what
pay another
game?
$10.
Yeah, what game do you think has the most disingenuous live service approach? I already know mine, as I think it's by far and away the fucking worst, most predatory.
I mean, Call of Duty's not great. Pay any of the like Blizzard Activision games
This
are
is
fucking
your favorite game.
Destiny.
Yeah. Destiny is by far the fucking worst because Destiny has a season pass. Destiny also has
Expansions.
DLCs, expansions, and they have fucking Eververse where you can buy skins and stuff. So they literally like have everything. Like they have, we're gonna charge you for these things with like real money.
At
We're
least they have
also
the
gonna have
respect
a
to not
season
shove it
pass.
down your throat. But yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's fair. I think it's really horrible to have all three because
It's pretty
typically
bad.
I'm buying an expansion because I get all of the content in the game or I can earn it in some way. Like I complete the quest and like that's kind of like what you do with an expansion, right? Like, could you imagine like World of Warcraft launching their expansion and then like half of like there was other stuff locked behind the deals? Because World of Warcraft does have like Eververse, right? They do have like
Yeah.
skins and
And they also have
mounts and
seasons.
things that you can only buy with real money. But they don't really have a season pass though. Like
They don't have a season pass, but they do have seasons. But you're right. But you pay monthly.
Well, yeah, but that's also because of the amount of support. Like they've always, I mean, they've charged forever. I don't really like that either. But
Yeah, but I'm saying
World
like
of Warcraft's also not a great example of like a company doing it really great.
Any of the Blizzard games. I mean, the Diablo 4 has skins, and I've complained about this before. They have skins that are like, I
like
think it's
$100
$50
or something.
No,
Like
they're like 50. It's like $50, and it's for one character class. It's not even a skin that you can place on all the classes. It's literally one character class. And
it's not what happens in World of Warcraft. If you buy a skin in World of Warcraft, it's usable on every character.
Could you imagine paying the cost of the fucking game for a skin that you can only use in part of the game? It's absolutely
pretty bad.
nuts.
I still think
absolutely
Destiny's
insane.
the worst because
Destiny's definitely not great.
They have all three major things, and I don't know. I fucking hate it. There's other game companies doing the same thing now, but yeah, I think Destiny kind of pioneered like let's shove as much monetization down your throat as we can.
I don't know if they pioneered it. But I think Bethesda pioneered it with their horse armor. They were the first paid DLC for microtransaction bullshit. So we can blame Bethesda for it.
Well, not like microtransactions. I just mean like the first to like really be like, we're gonna have expansions, we're gonna have season passes, we're gonna have we're gonna have purchasable skins. Like, what is every single fucking way we can monetize and get people to spend more money in this game?
Yeah,
and then we're also gonna lock content behind expansions.
Yeah, that's why the game kind of died.
Other two, and like expansions were like free, or like even like really cheap, like $10. But we're in like expansions like full cost, like $60 games.
Yeah, but it's like it was like you pay for the content that you get. So it's like, oh, you only want to do the story, you buy the expansion. But if you want to do the story plus the like live service stuff, you buy the season pass. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not. I'm just, I did play it. And then if you want cosmetics, you go and do the Eververse stuff. But yeah, I mean, I'm just, the thing that bothers me is like, I know it's bad. But it's like when there's like little ads in the game for their store. Like Destiny never did that. I'm just glad that they like until you went to the actual store page, like there was no like when you start Call of Duty, the first fucking thing you see is this huge ad for some skin that they want you to buy. And I'm just like, you literally showed me an ad in the game that I bought. It's awful. It's like if it's a free to play game, I give it a little more leniency, but like some games,
well, that's the whole thing, right? If Destiny was free to play and then you had battle passes and you had all these purchasable items,
well, technically it was.
I wouldn't mind at all.
They technically had a free to play version, but it was basically like a demo. They're being tricky.
I mean, you only want to play the base game, but then every expansion costs extra money.
I don't know. Do you think they're going to continue to make live service games at the rate they're trying to right now?
I don't know. It's tricky because, it all comes down to like live service exists because there's potential money to be made, but I think at the end of the day, it also exists because, it's just like when your favorite show ends, it's a bummer, right?
Yeah.
Like people want to keep getting content for things they really enjoy. And I think like from the consumer side or like developer side, even some people said, hey, we like making new content for this game because we know people love this game, and at its core, if you think about it that way, like I would love to see live service continue. In some way, I think like I wouldn't have any issue with battle passes just dying.
Yeah. I'm in the same boat.
I
Fuck
wouldn't
battle
mind at
passes.
all if we just saw like games switch back to more of like an expansion DLC pack system, where it's like, hey, yeah, like, oh, you love Spider-Man 2? Cool. Like, we're going to drop a whole new mission arc for this game and it's $10, if you want to play, jump in and back into Miles and Peter's story, it's an extra 10 hours of content or whatever, probably not that long because the game's only 25 hours, but 5 hours for $10. I think a lot of people would buy it, if it's a whole new like villain encounter or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, they do have expansions. Yeah. Like they had the not Black Widow, the other spider, Black Cat. Yeah, Black Cat.
Did they?
In the first game, in the second one?
I never
But yeah, they do have
played the
DLC,
first
whatever
Spider-Man.
it is.
I played Miles and then I played Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, the first one they had a bunch of DLC. I think the second one they had too. I don't know about the Miles one though, but the other two did.
Yeah, I don't have to check because I really love that game. It's like one of the only games I've 100% it. But yeah, like more stuff like that, I'd be totally on board with. But of course, that's hard to do with multiplayer focused games, right? Like non-story based. How do you do that with like a League of Legends or a Counter-Strike or from a modern game perspective, like a Call of Duty or a Battlefield or whatever,
I think live service games they originally came like naturally, right? Is like it was a game that wasn't designed as a live service, but maybe it was like a multiplayer experience, something that became a live service was like a lot of the big ones, with a few exceptions. But I think it's like trying to make a cult hit every time, like a movie or something, and it's like no, those kind of come like naturally, right? So it's hard to like try and replicate something that has to like grow out of something, like growing a community. With the exception, I would say, of like MMOs. MMOs are kind of fall under an umbrella of live service to a degree, but like I kind of think those are separate because that's the entire game.
Well,
but
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, games like X Defiant or Concord, like starting off with like the whole live service bit, it's like I think you have to kind of find your community first, and then work up to a full deal live service, whatever that like kind of means. But
yeah, I mean, even like you've seen like Battlefields and stuff like that. Like when I was working on 2042, I think they didn't launch the first season pass or the first season until like 2 or 3 months after the game launched. It was kind of like, hey, now we're going to give you more content. So here's new weapons to earn, and here's like a new map. Like there's always like a big piece of content. So like, here's a new operator, here's a new map, here's the season pass where you could unlock, skins and whatever else. So again, like, can't just be cosmetic driven or even like weapon driven. I think having to have like that new level, those new playable characters.
Yeah,
that is where you've seen games.
You have to
like
be able to take
League
the
of
things
Legends.
like guns and skins and use them somewhere. Otherwise, they're pointless.
But you see like League of Legends, it's been successful because so not only is it new content, but I think this is something that'll be interesting to see how Marvel Rivals does over time, because they've already dropped a ton of extra characters, and there's already a lot of characters in that game.
That game they've done a really good job of knowing their market. Have you seen the skins and things like that? Like they know exactly what the fuck they're doing.
I mean, I don't really mind that the some of the skins are a little revealing because
I don't care
in comic books, like the characters are all the women mostly dressed that way. So to change it in the game, I think would be a little disingenuous to the source material. But I think that will be interesting though. And what League has done to a good extent. Every time a new character is released, it usually breaks the game, the meta, because it's a little overpowered and have to balance it. But with how many characters they already have in Rivals and a new character coming out, I think they promised every 6 weeks.
Yeah, which
Keeping
is
the
very
game
aggressive.
balanced is going to be like really important. And I do think they need to figure out some way to solve the issue of everyone just playing DPS characters. Riot did that with Rank. They started doing role limits.
Mm-hmm.
But then you start having people leave because they got locked into support and they want to play DPS. So you leave. Then you're doing like bans for leavers.
Yeah, nobody's really perfected.
There is no great
close.
system. There's no great system to keep everybody happy, right? And like maybe it's something where like you never have to play the same role you never play the same role back-to-back games. It's just something like there's something in the programming where you queue up your DPS, next game you're either tank
What if you had to like select your role and you could only change it like once a month and it was like locked? You're like, I can only pick DPS characters. I can only be healer.
What you can do though is take the League approach. So League, you select your role before you queue. You say I'm either okay with, well, you don't select your hero, but you select your lane.
Yeah, I want to be DPS. I want to be healer. I want to be a tank.
No, it's like I'm going to be top,
bruiser,
I'm gonna be mid, or I'm going to be bottom. I'm pretty sure, or jungle. So you can kind of select your role. I'm not sure if you can select your DPS, tank, or support.
In Overwatch, that you could do that. Yeah. So that's what I was thinking of.
I think that's what would be a good solve for Rivals is a pre-match queue. And then, if you want to queue DPS, then you might be waiting 30 minutes for a match because everyone's queuing DPS. Or you can queue. And they did the same shit in World of Warcraft for dungeons. Mm-hmm. You could queue for dungeons. And if you select DPS, you might be waiting literally 30 minutes.
You can't change.
You might be waiting 30 minutes though. Not true. Well, yeah, you can cancel your queue. But
but what's your healer? Your character's a healer, but I know they've made changes recently that you can it's more flexible. But anyways, not the point.
Yeah, but like your queue would be much longer if you selected you wanted to be DPS in your dungeon versus being a healer or whatnot. So yeah, it could be an interesting solution for Rivals to be a pre-ranked queue or a pre-match selection. And but for me also with quick play, I'm sorry people, quick play is just practice. I don't give a fuck what people do in quick play. Quick play is for people to fuck around, just have a good time. It's for other people. I know. I used to do quick play because
people take it so seriously.
I'm not good at DPS. I'm too fucking old. I just can't aim like I used to, And so in ranked Overwatch, I always just played support because I could still heal, and it was fun playing Lucio or Mercy and stuff like that. But I would go to quick play to go fuck around on Widowmaker, even though I kind of sucked. But I wanted to just play Widowmaker sometimes, or I wanted to play Tracer, so that's where I'd go do it. And we'd probably lose because my DPS is fucking terrible. But that's what quick play is for.
That's literally what it's for.
So if you're out there getting mad because you got 5 DPS for quick play, sorry about your fucking luck, dude. That's just the nature of quick play in those type of games.
Yeah. All right. This is by far our longest episode I think we've ever done.
Yeah, we're about 2 hours almost, yeah.
Yeah, besides the time that we did the Game Awards play-by-play review, I think that one was 2 hours or something. But that was a special episode. For a normal podcast episode, is the longest episode. So maybe I think I'm gonna cut it here. Maybe you should just break it into 2. We could. Nah, I'm gonna leave it. Fuck it. But I'm gonna cut it there. So thank you all for listening. Don't forget to follow or subscribe if you've made it this far. We post new episodes.
If you made it this far, you're a fucking beast.
Yeah, seriously. Where the fuck am I? It's 11 o'clock. I don't stay up this late.
We're hanging out, people. We're getting the fuck out of here. Thanks for watching.
Peace out.